Racist hotel turns away black man billionaire, only for him to return the next day as the owner. Today, I'm sharing an inspiring story about resilience, justice, and turning discrimination into change. Imagine being denied a hotel room due to prejudice, only to return the next day as the new owner. Stay tuned to see how one man's determination transformed not just a hotel, but its values forever. They told him there were no rooms left until someone else walked in. What they didn't know was that the man they rejected wasn't just any traveler. He was a billionaire with the power to rewrite their fate. The rain came down in sheets as Charles pulled his sleek black SUV into the circular driveway of the Grand Horizon Hotel in Naples, Florida. The golden glow of the chandeliers spilled out onto the wet pavement, reflecting an aura of luxury. For most, the hotel was a sanctuary, a haven of comfort for weary travelers. But tonight, Charles wasn't met with that kind of welcome. He stepped out of his car, adjusting the lapel of his tailored navy suit. At 6'2" with a commanding presence, Charles was hard to miss. His polished shoes echoed softly on the marble floor as he entered the lobby. The scent of fresh-cut lilies hung in the air, blending with the faint aroma of espresso from the nearby lounge. Charles approached the reception desk with an easy smile. "Good evening," he said, his voice calm yet warm. "I'd like a room for the night. My flight got delayed and I'll need a place to stay before catching the next one." The front desk clerk, a younger man with slicked-back blonde hair and a name tag that read Evan, barely glanced up. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, typing slowly, deliberately. "I'm sorry, sir," he said with a tone that wasn't sorry at all. "We're fully booked." Charles glanced at the lobby around him. It wasn't bustling, and the soft chime of an elevator marked the arrival of only one other guest. He leaned slightly forward, his smile unwavering. "Fully booked, you say? Not even a single room?" Evan finally looked up, his lips curling into a thin smile. "That's correct. There's nothing available." Before Charles could respond, the revolving doors spun open, and a middle-aged couple entered, their suitcases wheeling behind them. Evan's demeanor shifted instantly. His smile widened, and his tone became honeyed. "Welcome to the Grand Horizon. Do you have a reservation?" The man shook his head, and the clerk nodded enthusiastically. "Not a problem. Let me check for availability." Charles stood there, his calm mask slipping just slightly. He watched as Evan tapped the keyboard again, and within moments produced a room key for the couple. "Enjoy your stay," Evan said brightly as they walked away. Charles cleared his throat, drawing Evan's attention back. "I thought you said you were fully booked." Evan's eyes flickered briefly, his practiced smile faltering. I meant we don't have anything that would suit your needs." Charles felt the weight of the moment settle in. It wasn't about availability. It wasn't about him being late or last minute. It was about something far uglier. The realization hit, but Charles didn't react. Instead, he straightened his posture, his expression unreadable. "Thank you for your time," he said, his voice as composed as when he'd entered. Without another word, he turned on his heel and walked out into the rain. But this wasn't the end of the night. It was only the beginning. Charles stepped back into the rain, his mind calm despite the sting of the encounter. He stood under the awning, letting the patter of rain on the canopy above fill the silence. Pulling out his phone, he scrolled through a list of nearby hotels, but his attention remained fixed on the revolving doors behind him. Something about the scene he had just witnessed lingered, like a faint smell that wouldn't dissipate. He leaned casually against a marble pillar, just out of sight of the lobby but close enough to observe. It didn't take long for his suspicions to be confirmed. A young man in his 20s wearing cargo pants and a hoodie strolled in. He looked travel-worn, his backpack slung low over one shoulder. Charles watched as the man approached Evan with the same request he had made minutes earlier, a room for the night. Charles couldn't hear the exchange, but he didn't need to. Evan's exaggerated nods and wide smile said everything. Within moments, the man was handed a key card. No hesitation, no excuses, just a swift transaction and a courteous farewell. Charles's lips pressed into a firm line. It wasn't an oversight. It wasn't an accident. It was intentional. He lingered a moment longer, contemplating his next move. His first instinct was to confront the clerk, call out the hypocrisy right there in the lobby. But years of navigating boardrooms and negotiations had taught him the value of restraint. There was a time to speak and a time to act. Tonight it was the latter. He slipped back into his car, the leather seat cool against his back. As he drove away, the hotel's golden lights fading in his rearview mirror, an idea began to take shape. This wasn't just about him. It was about every other person who might have faced the same quiet rejection, but didn't have the means or the voice to challenge it. Charles wasn't going to let this pass. Not tonight, not ever. The windshield wipers danced rhythmically as Charles navigated the wet streets of Naples. The hotel's rejection replayed in his mind, not as a wound, but as fuel. He wasn't angry. Anger wasted energy. Instead, he felt something sharper, focused determination. He had spent decades building his empire by outsmarting those who underestimated him. Tonight, he would remind himself and others of the value of dignity and justice. He pulled into the parking lot of a nearby diner, a humble spot with a glowing red neon sign that read, "Sandy's 24, 7 Eats." Inside, the smell of coffee and sizzling bacon greeted him. Charles slid into a booth by the window, pulling out his laptop. A waitress approached with a steaming mug of coffee, setting it down without a word. He thanked her with a nod and began typing furiously. Charles had been eyeing the Grand Horizon Hotel for months. The property was part of a struggling chain, and whispers of its sale had reached his team during a routine investment meeting. He hadn't given it much thought at the time. It was a small fish compared to the global ventures he usually pursued, but tonight had changed everything. Within minutes, he had dialed his attorney, Lisa Reynolds, a sharp negotiator with a reputation for closing deals at lightning speed. "Lisa, I need the paperwork on the Grand Horizon Hotel finalized by sunrise," he said, his voice steady but commanding. "Sunrise," Lisa echoed, caught off guard. "Charles, that's ambitious, even for you." "Consider it done, Lisa," he replied, the tone leaving no room for debate. "Send the paperwork to my phone as soon as it's ready. I'll sign electronically." He hung up and stared out the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. Charles didn't just want to own the hotel. He wanted to set an example, a statement that actions have consequences, especially when those actions are rooted in prejudice. The hours crept by as he worked through the logistics, reviewing contracts and calculating the immediate steps. By the time the first light of dawn broke, painting the sky in soft hues of orange and pink, the deal was sealed. The Grand Horizon Hotel was his. Charles closed his laptop and took a deep breath. His coffee had gone cold, but he didn't care. The real work was about to begin. The morning sun glinted off the glass facade of the Grand Horizon Hotel as Charles stepped out of his car, a quiet confidence radiating from him. Dressed sharply in a charcoal gray suit, he adjusted his cufflinks and glanced up at the building. It was a symbol of exclusivity, its polished exterior hiding the floors beneath. Today, those floors would be exposed. The hotel staff were bustling about, preparing for another day of catering to their affluent guests. Evan, the front desk clerk, was already behind the counter, his polished demeanor firmly in place. He didn't notice Charles walk in, at least not at first. Charles took his time, observing the space with fresh eyes. He noticed the staff exchanging brief glances as they passed him, their expressions flickering with curiosity and subtle unease. Perhaps it was the aura he carried, a calm authority that hinted at something significant. When he approached the front desk, Evan's practiced smile appeared. "Good morning, sir. How can I help you today?" Charles didn't respond immediately. Instead, he set a small black folder on the counter, its edges sharp and pristine. He opened it slowly, revealing a stack of legal documents stamped and signed. Evan's smile faltered, confusion flickering across his face. "I'm here to make an introduction," Charles began, his tone measured but firm. "My name is Charles Rivers, and as of 6 o'clock a.m. this morning, I am the new owner of the Grand Horizon Hotel." The room seemed to hold its breath. The other staff members froze mid-task, their heads turning toward the lobby. Evan's face turned a pale shade, his composure crumbling as he tried to process the words. I don't understand," Evan stammered, his usual slick confidence nowhere to be found. "I'll make it simple," Charles continued, his eyes locking onto Evan's. "This hotel is now under my ownership, and last night, I had the pleasure of experiencing firsthand how some of the staff treat potential guests. Let's just say I was unimpressed." Evan's mouth opened, but no words came out. Charles held up a hand, silencing any attempt at an excuse. "No need to explain. Actions speak louder than words. And your actions? They spoke volumes." Charles turned to address the staff now gathered in the lobby, their faces a mix of apprehension and curiosity. "I believe in running businesses that represent fairness, respect, and inclusivity. Unfortunately, this hotel fell short of that standard, but that's going to change, starting today." The tension in the room was palpable, but Charles didn't let it linger. "You'll all have the opportunity to grow with this new chapter, except for those who refuse to treat every guest with dignity. I don't tolerate prejudice in any form." Evan's face flushed red, and he muttered something under his breath, but Charles didn't give him the chance to speak. "Your actions last night have no place in the future of this hotel. You're dismissed, effective immediately." Evan's jaw dropped, but the words hung in the air, final and absolute. The other staff looked on, some nodding subtly, others exchanging glances. Charles could feel the shift, a ripple of understanding spreading through the room. Evan stormed out of the lobby, his face a cocktail of anger and humiliation. But Charles remained unbothered. His focus had shifted to the remaining staff, whose uncertainty was now mixed with a glimmer of hope. He knew change wasn't easy, but it was necessary. "Let me be clear," Charles began, pacing slowly, his voice firm but not unkind. "This isn't just about last night. This is about the culture of this hotel, the message it sends, and the experience it provides to every person who walks through those doors." The staff hung on his words, their attention unwavering. What happened last night wasn't just a slight against me. It was a reflection of something much larger, a mindset that has no place here. From this moment forward, this hotel will represent respect and inclusion. That means change, starting with new policies and training. Charles gestured to a young woman near the concierge desk. "What's your name?" "Leah," she replied, her voice tentative. "Well, Leah," he said, offering her a reassuring smile, "you and the rest of the team will undergo comprehensive training to ensure every guest feels valued, regardless of who they are or where they come from." Leah nodded, her initial apprehension softening into understanding. Charles could see the others slowly beginning to relax as well, their shoulders less rigid, their expressions more open. "But let me be clear about something else," Charles continued. "I'm not here to punish anyone unfairly. Mistakes happen, and growth is possible. If you're willing to embrace these changes, there's a place for you here. But if not, it's better for all of us to part ways." He let the silence linger for a moment, giving his words time to sink in. This hotel has the potential to be more than just a place to sleep or hold conferences. It can be a beacon, a symbol of what hospitality should be, and with the right team, I know we can make that happen. Charles took a step back, surveying the room. The atmosphere had shifted dramatically since his entrance. Where there had been fear and tension, there was now a cautious optimism. "I've already put the wheels in motion," he added. "A new general manager will be arriving next week, and the renovation plans will begin immediately. This is a fresh start for all of us." He paused, letting the gravity of his words settle. Then, with a faint smile, he added, "Let's make this hotel something we can all be proud of." The staff exchanged glances, some whispering softly among themselves. Charles could see that his message had resonated. The foundation for change had been laid. The weeks that followed were nothing short of revolutionary for the Grand Horizon Hotel. Construction crews moved in almost immediately, updating everything from the outdated decor to the hotel's infrastructure. Walls that had once felt cold and sterile were repainted with warm, inviting tones. The lobby was transformed into a space that felt welcoming, not intimidating. A place where anyone could walk in and feel they belonged. Charles had a hands-on approach, personally overseeing much of the process. He wasn't the kind of leader who barked orders from afar. He was present, engaging with staff and guests alike. His energy was infectious, inspiring the team to embrace the vision he had laid out. The training sessions became the backbone of the transformation. Professionals were brought in to lead workshops on diversity, equity, and inclusion. These weren't lectures, they were conversations. Staff shared their experiences, confronted their biases, and learned how to create an environment of genuine hospitality. Leah, the young concierge Charles had spoken to on his first morning as owner, quickly became a standout. Her natural empathy and knack for problem-solving earned her a promotion to assistant manager. "I never thought I'd have this kind of opportunity," she admitted to Charles during one of their check-ins. He simply smiled and said, "You earned it." Word of the hotel's transformation spread quickly. Former guests, drawn by curiosity, returned to see the changes for themselves. New guests arrived, intrigued by the stories of how the hotel had turned itself around. Reviews began pouring in, filled with praise not just for the luxurious accommodations, but for the atmosphere of kindness and respect that now permeated every interaction. The once prejudiced reputation of the Grand Horizon Hotel was replaced by one of inclusivity and excellence. Charles made sure to highlight the stories of his team members who had grown and thrived through the process, showing the world that change wasn't just possible, it was powerful. It was a crisp morning when Charles stood in the hotel's newly renovated lobby, sipping a cup of freshly brewed coffee. The sunlight poured through the large windows, highlighting the polished marble floors and the fresh flowers adorning every corner. Guests bustled in and out, greeted warmly by the staff, each interaction a testament to the hotel's transformation. Leah approached him, holding a clipboard. "Mr. Rivers, the final guest survey results are in. Over 90% of visitors mentioned the hospitality as the highlight of their stay." Charles smiled, setting his cup down. "That's what I like to hear, Leah. It's not just about the building, it's about the people in it." As she walked away to handle another task, Charles took a moment to reflect. The journey had been more than a business venture. It had been a reminder of the power of standing up for what's right. He thought back to the night he had been turned away. That moment had sparked a change not just in the hotel, but in everyone involved, himself included. Meanwhile, Evan, the former front desk clerk, had learned his own lessons. News of his dismissal had spread quickly, and opportunities in the industry dried up. Eventually, he found work in a much humbler setting, where he was forced to confront his prejudices daily. For the first time, he began to understand the weight of his actions. Back at the Grand Horizon, Charles noticed a family arriving, parents with 2 young children in tow. The father, a man who bore more than a passing resemblance to Charles, paused to shake his hand. "I read about what you did here," the man said. "It's inspiring, thank you." Charles simply nodded, his expression warm. "This place is for everyone now," he replied. "That's how it should have always been." As the family moved on, Charles turned toward the entrance, his heart lighter. He had built many things in his life, companies, fortunes, legacies, but this was different. This was personal. In the end, the Grand Horizon Hotel was more than a building. It was a symbol, a reminder that change begins with a single act of courage, and a belief that every person deserves respect. This story teaches us the power of resilience and using our influence to create meaningful change. Charles's journey reminds us that facing injustice with determination can turn even the worst experiences into opportunities for transformation. It's a lesson in standing up for what's right and ensuring fairness for everyone. If you found this story inspiring, please like the video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that inspire and uplift. Your support truly matters.